Jake Lacy, I love what you said a couple months ago at TCA about Apples Never Fall. You said that Chris Sweeney, one of the directors, told you that all the men on the show think they're crushing masculinity. And I thought that
Yeah.
was hilarious and very applicable to Troy. So what did that unlock for you for the character?
Well, it it unlocked I as Jake thought that Troy was also crushing masculinity, which was like uncomfortable to go like, "Oh, is that not that's not everyone's idea of like killing it? Is having a nice car and a big house and um, going to Stanford." And so that was like I don't know what that was. Maybe comforting to go like, "Oh, I'm probably right to play this role." That I relate um just instinctually, inherently to this guy's choices. And also, I don't know, a moment of like unrequested self awareness to be like, oh, maybe what I think signifies success is a little external.
Yeah.
But I think maybe what it opened up was this idea that it's the means by which Troy is trying to solve this problem. And the problem is one of not feeling loved, of feeling like he's on the outside of, a relationship, an honest relationship with his father or with his family, because nobody wants to, half of them don't want to talk about what their childhood was like, and the other half don't think that's what their childhood was like. Um, and Troy has uniquely gotten the brunt of it from Stan, that the other kids really have not. So I really, it, it's a joy to be in this project because there's clear choices that Troy is chasing to try to feel better, unsuccessfully. Um, or they work to a certain extent, but they're not sustaining, they're not meaningful the way that an honest, open, loving relationship is meaningful. I think
Yeah.
I think that sort of started those wheels turning a bit.
Mhm. I mean, it's, what you were saying before, but Troy, outwardly very successful, rich, just crushing masculinity, but like, inwardly not so much, there's a lot of like pain and, just like feelings he has not addressed, but it kind of applies to the whole family too, because they look perfect on the outside, but they're all emotionally stunted because of just they're a tennis family. The kids were raised to be so competitive and there are all these secrets and
Yeah,
these
they're all hurting. I mean, they all are. I think I forget which of the cast said this, but essentially that like each of the Delaney children sees themselves as the black sheep. Like
Mhm.
they all think that they're on the outside, which in some ways they are, in some ways is a little self-obsessed, is a little like, why don't you think about someone else rather than yourself, and how does this affect me? How am I being put out? How am I not getting what I need? Um, and then the arc I think that you see hopefully through the whole series, this conclusion is that that the opening of the door of honesty as to who we really are as people, those secrets and shames being kind of, put out in the open, ends up those things in the closet aren't as scary as they seem. The things in the dark aren't as horrible as they seem if they can be brought out into the light. And that bringing them out, we leave the Delaney family at the end with this opportunity to heal. We don't find them like completed. You find them going like, maybe therapy would be good. Like they're
They've never seen
starting
a
down the
therapist
path.
before.
No,
No.
no, 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 no. No one here. They are living unexamined lives. But like it just sort of starts the ball rolling, which I think is it's so hard to land the plane narratively, um, and give a sense of conclusion to a story, and also some honesty in going like, well, in real life, stories don't end.
Yeah.
They roll into the next. And but that's unfulfilling in a TV world to go like, and then they just kept living. It's like, well, you gotta
And
tell
everyone's always
some
just like,
story, you know?
what's next, right? That's what everyone's always like.
Right. Then what happened? You
Mhm.
know? But I think Melanie and the producing team did a beautiful job of, I think, providing both in the end.
Yeah, for sure. I also love the structure of the show with every character getting essentially their own episode, their own like they're the focus of each episode, and the pilot
Yeah.
is the whole family introduced them. So I was wondering like when it's another because Troy's episode is the fifth one. So when it's another character's episode, like especially one of the earlier ones, do you approach Troy differently? Like do you treat it as that's that character's subjective view of Troy? So maybe they see him like Amy sees him more as of a dick this episode, you know? Or do you treat it as like an objective view of Troy, even if the focus is on another character for this episode?
No, I think, that the perspective shift is in the writing and in the way it was shot, you
Mhm.
know? So, Troy is I'm playing him the same straight through. Um, there may be moments in other people's episodes where the scenes or how we're directed in a scene um, highlights the other character's perspective on our relationship, but that's still just me, playing that moment as it's written or as it's being directed, um, and finding whatever honesty you can, whatever through line you can for each of those elements. But no, I leave that to someone else's hand to go like, you know, it's interesting. I don't know how they went about that. That's actually like an interesting question because in the edit you could choose in someone else, in a specific individual's story, their episode. You either could favor seeing them more to see
Mhm.
how they see the world, or you could favor what they're seeing
Right.
and shoot actually more of the other cast outside of themselves for each of those episodes. But I don't know what they settled on. Um, I just know to circle all the way back to your lovely question. No, Troy, I'm just playing him as he is straight through, and following the lead of the writing and directing,
Hmm.
for whatever vision they have.
Yeah, for sure. I think like one thing about that's compelling about the whole family is like I think they're inherently good people and they're trying to make the right choices, but they may not actually be in their own like best self-interest or the self-interest of others. And then, we get the reveal that Joy was actually the one who told Harry to leave Stan, and it wasn't just him leaving because of, the fight between you guys when you were teenagers. So it's like your mom was protecting you, but the way she did it made your dad hold a grudge against you for 19 years. So what did you guys, you and Annette Bening and Sam Neill discuss about that whole scene and confrontation? Because I feel like it could have been like really intense and loud, but you guys kind of played it with like some like ebb and flow with the emotions, it like ramped up and then the way you say like don't like it's my life, I thought you were the one I could trust too,
Mm.
was really devastating because you weren't screaming at it in her face.
You know, we discussed certainly with Melanie, with Chris, and then, with each other, what the effect that has on each of their lives leading up to this moment, and then what it costs Joy to reveal that, emotionally, um, how bad things had to have gotten for her to uh, disclose that. Um, and then the filming of it was really, I went to Chris beforehand and was like, Chris Sweeney, the director, to be like, I mean, what levels are we talking about here? Like, how fraught is this? Because it's a huge deal. And he said, I guess two things. One is that he was like, we have to see that it matters to you, otherwise it won't matter to us, as a viewer. Like it this has changed the trajectory of your entire life. Um, every foundational relationship you have, your parents, your siblings, has been tinged with dishonesty. And now the person you thought you could count on in all of this is the root of it. Has actually maybe been the most dishonest in allowing these dysfunctional circumstances, relationships, dynamics to exist for so long. And so, we did, oh, we spent 2 days filming that scene. There's on the editing, the digital floor somewhere, um, a dozen takes that are like those levels are all over the place. And I think I was really happy with the take that they chose, because to me it feels like the clarity of Troy's feelings around this are in that response, and also his like dissociation from his own feelings is also present. That it isn't, there's some takes where I'm devastated, like in tears saying this to my mom. And I would imagine that that felt a little like not Troy. It just felt a little too emotionally connected. And that the more true take to that character is one that's in a lot of pain, and that's tamped down even as this thing is like going to explode underneath.
And he
Um,
still has to process it because now it's like, is it because of like how he's been treated the last 19 years by Stan? Is like that's why he thinks he murdered Joy, like in
yes.
the present. Yeah.
And, the what's so tricky is like we shot from March to June or July when we went on, strike, and then flew home, and then went back and filmed for another 4 or 5 weeks at the tail end of the year. And so that means I have been aware of Troy's arc and this moment and this story and the reveal for the better part of a year. So then you have to sort of, as an actor, like remove that awareness and totally let go of all the useless analysis I've done, potentially useless analysis I've done leading up to this moment, and go, oh, for the first time, Troy is hearing this news. This whole story takes place over whatever, a week and a half, not 9 months. So there's also that element of sort of keeping it alive and moving that becomes its own task, I suppose, because you, as an actor, you've been living with this awareness for months, and the character is finding out in real time.
Yeah.
It's a weird balance to strike.
And your body is not aware of it either sometimes, like especially if it's like something physical, like memory too. So
Yes, 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 that you would, yeah, like what you
like
do
we're
when
on
you get
pause right now for a couple months. So
right, yes, and then snap back into that thing. It's
yeah.
kind of wild.
Well, at the end of Troy's episode, he tells Stan that he told the cops everything. And I love this confrontation because it was like he has finally like built up the courage to tell him, like why like he's turned against him essentially, and he thinks like he killed his mom. And the way you deliver the lines at the end, you said like I just thought I'd come here and tell you in person, and it sounds like so meek when you say I that, and then you grow in confidence and you just say I thought I should come here and tell you this in person like a man. So how did you work on those two lines and the delivery? And I feel like sometimes when I say words over and over again, I'm like it loses meaning and it all sounds the same.
Yeah, it was at first, I don't know if it stayed in there, but there's something that Stan has sort of been berating Troy earlier and saying, essentially saying like, you couldn't come back and handle this like a man. And so then Troy is putting that back at Stan to be like, whatever this notion is of like being a man and
Crushing
whatever version
masculinity.
of it,
Yeah.
yeah, that you're like expecting of me or projecting onto me or whatever it is, like my sense of being a man is owning up to the things I've done. You don't seem capable of doing that, although I do think you're capable of murder. And so I'm here on my terms as a man to say, like, here's what I've done.
Mhm.
And so the first few takes of that, I think, were sort of emboldened. And then, or my thoughts on it were, and then we got to filming, and I was like, is Sam going to have that chainsaw? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, okay, okay. So that changes things a little bit. Like he's,
Props.
Troy has come in full of bluster to be like, I'm going to tell him enough is enough. I can't live like this. Like, this is what I've done. You're going to have to deal with the repercussions. And instead arrives and it's dark and it's scary and the lights are out and his dad's in the backyard, with a
With a chainsaw.
chainsaw.
It's like a horror movie.
Yeah. And he's 100% is a horror movie. And he's there to say, like it or, like it or not, this is what I've done. Except now a man that I believe is capable of murder, I'm alone with in the middle of the night and assume he's killed my mom. And so that the wind comes out of the sails immediately. And and also that, just throughout when Troy and Stan get into it, or in my eyes, when Stan is kind of coming for Troy tends to in his mind is being the bigger man and sort of keeping his mouth shut and not, snapping back at him or something. But I think in reality is scared to do it.
Mhm.
Doesn't can't arrive there and isn't like shaking in his chair at family dinners, but just is like, I can't go down
Mhm.
that road. And so that comes up again. This one moment he has to like be honest with his father and call him out. He's petrified to do it. This guy that has built a life where he's in charge and intelligent and has beautiful things and thinks he's independent and all this is still at the end of the day like petrified of his father.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
Well, I
yeah.
I heard that you were the best tennis player out of the cast. Do you still play?
It's not the highest bar, to be honest. Like, it's
You're
not
probably
like,
not gonna go pro, but
no, no, no. Yeah, I've played a little bit. I've been traveling a lot, and so I haven't gotten to like, I really was dedicated to this idea that I would come home from filming in Australia and then
it's your new
take up
hobby like
tennis.
every weekend.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And, you
Yeah.
know, I
It
have two little kids and like regular
you
life
could train them. You were
immediately.
trained by a US Open champion, so you could train them.
Honestly, like I take them out on the courts and we do stuff and we work on it and we've got like um met a trainer and working with him. And so like I am engaged with it, but not
Not
I'm
full,
not
not when you
entering any
planned. Yeah,
any tourneys.
it happened.
No, no, no. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, in this past year, you were also in the Cape Mutiny Court Martial,
Yeah.
and that turned out to be Willem Freakin's final film. What was it like working on that one with him?
I it was incredible. That's just was speaking to somebody about this, but he's I don't know. The thing I'll just keep saying this quote from him because it really has changed a lot for me. But he said, I've been making movies for 60 years, and the in all that time, the thing that I think is most important is spontaneity.
Mm,
I I don't, luckily for us, it's a courtroom drama. It doesn't require blocking rehearsals. Most people are sat or they're crossing, or it's not like there's action pieces and things like that. But he was like, I don't want to rehearse it. uh, you know I'll block it, I'll tell you where you're going to be, and then we'll shoot it, because I think the real value is in you hearing it and responding to it for the first time. And I just loved it. I'd never seen anybody with enough clout to say that to a crew or a production team or something, and not have people balk at it.
like he can.
And Yeah. And it was so engaging, like he's basically going like, if you're on trial in real life, you're going to get one chance to say this and fight for yourself. And so you'll get one take at this. And some of these scenes are 17,
Mhm.
18, 19 pages long of just dialogue of prosecution, cross-examination. Like, so that's a lot to bite off and not go, no, let's go up to page 3 and then we'll
Give me
reset,
another one. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And to do
Uh-huh.
that for 20 minutes and then have him be like, good, do you want another one or are we okay? I mean, I'll take another if you'll give it to me, but hell, man, if you
We
think
can
you
move
got it,
on.
let's move on. Yeah, it's wild. And also I've been a just massive fan of Jason Clark's for, 15 years, 20 years now. So to get to work with him in such close quarters and uh that was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, lastly, we're recording this the day after they officially announced the Office reboot. We're old enough for the Office to be rebooted. So what are your thoughts on that? And what are your memories from joining season 9? That was like a year after Better With
Yeah.
You ended, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I uh I was scared the whole time that I was there, not because anybody was intimidating. Everyone was very welcoming um and I think excited to have like new cast members. You know what I mean? When you work on a job for a long time, it's like everybody's ins and outs 10 years in. And so everybody was really lovely and encouraging, but I just didn't want to screw it up. Like I loved the show so much. I didn't want to come in and ruin it. And I also didn't want to come in and seem presumptive, to go like, we're all peers now. Where I go, you've created something iconic, and I'm being like taped on to the side, and I'm thrilled to be taped on to the side. But let's be clear, you have built this incredible thing, and I'm just a part of it. And then I spoke to Jenna and Angela for their podcast maybe a month ago or 6 weeks ago, and really, like, it was so cathartic. They really were like, "That's not what we thought of you," like so it really was nice to go like, oh, I'm seeing myself as a part of that thing in a whole other way than others are, and then it gives me like a little ease to look back on that fondly and not filled with like, oh, I wish I was better on that show. I wish I'd done it this way. Whatever neuroses seeps into an actor's brain. But and I don't know what I think about the reboot. Have at it. Everything's getting rebooted, and
I mean, it's going to be at a
you know,
newspaper now. Who knows? I don't know. Everything is getting rebooted now. So,
it's at a newspaper.
yes. Yeah, that was the log line. They're looking for volunteer reporters. I'm like, pay the people. They deserve to be paid.
But isn't print a dying
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
industry?
I don't have the answers here. I'm just telling you what the log line said.
Look, if Greg Daniels is involved, I trust it. You know what I mean? He's been funny for 35 years, and I don't think he's going to stop
We
anytime
will
soon.
judge the final product. So
Yeah, like
there we go.
if he's involved, I'm like, you got a better than not shot at that being incredibly funny. So, they can set it wherever they want. They can put it in the future if they want. I'll probably still tune in.
Awesome. So we can watch it together when it premieres on Peacock whenever it's ready. So
Yes, yes.
Jake, it
Sneak
was
peek.
great speaking with you. Thanks so much for your time. Congratulations again on the show.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thanks for the time.